Welcome. If you are watching this, know that today is not a coincidence. You were intentionally guided here, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but right now, in this very moment. Perhaps you are currently mourning a loss, or maybe you are wrestling with profound questions about your purpose, your path, and the intensity of your pain. Perhaps you have even lifted your voice to the divine, asking, "Why have you gone silent?" I urge you to listen with extreme care, because this video is more than just a recording. It is a sacred message meant for you, delivered from above. It is not from me, but from the one who fashioned you and who holds a definitive plan for your life, regardless of your past, your failings, or your religious beliefs. This profound message is for you. Over the course of the next few minutes, you will begin to grasp the deeper reasons behind why everything seems to have broken down, why that period of silence was absolutely necessary, why your suffering was never meant as punishment, and what your essential next step must be. This may well be the video that irrevocably changes the course of your life. So, pause, take a deep breath, and allow your heart to truly listen. Because sometimes the voice you have been desperately waiting for doesn't arrive like a clap of thunder. It sounds exactly like this. Part 1. The unspoken pain. You have been carrying a monumental weight, perhaps for months, perhaps for years, a profound pain that remains hidden from everyone. You have perfected the art of pretense. You smile easily at work, you laugh convincingly with friends, but when night descends and you are finally alone, the silence screams louder than all your cultivated strength. Perhaps you experienced an agonizing loss. Perhaps someone shattered your heart. Or perhaps your most cherished dreams never materialized despite your absolute best efforts. Maybe you are simply exhausted from always having to be the strong one, while no one ever bothers to check if you are still breathing on the inside. You have prayed. You have wept. You have screamed into your pillow. Yet the expected answer never came. In your deepest moments, you cried out, "God, where are you?" And perhaps, just perhaps, you began to harbor the devastating thought, "God has forgotten me." But here is the truth, the core truth that no one ever thought to tell you. Sometimes, the divine hand will actively dismantle your own plans, not to inflict suffering, but to shelter and protect you. Why? Because the very structure you were painstakingly building was on the verge of collapsing and destroying you along with it. You were relentlessly pursuing people who were incapable of truly loving you. You were entering places where you were never meant to belong. You were desperately clinging to dreams that were never intended for you to carry. And so, he removed them. This wasn't an act of vengeance or punishment, but because he possessed a foresight you lacked. He saw the future when you could only perceive the present moment. Yet, here you are now still breathing, still engaged in the fight. That fact alone is undeniable proof that you are already deep within the necessary process. That is why you are alive. That is precisely why you are watching this video. You did not arrive at this point by mere chance. He was actively working while you were crying. He was meticulously preparing you while you were breaking apart. He was listening, even when his own response was silence. You mistakenly believed it was the end, but in reality, it was merely the genesis. The pain you feared would obliterate you is, in fact, transforming into the very catalyst for your imminent rise. And allow me to offer this crucial reminder. Place God first before your definition of success, before the temptation of revenge, and before anyone's fleeting opinion. When God occupies the central position, everything else ultimately finds its correct alignment, even if that process requires time. Perhaps in this moment, you are gripped by fear, fear of the unknown future, fear of persistent uncertainty, fear of being left behind. But let me pose a simple question. When has the future ever been truly certain? We exhaust ourselves worrying about things we cannot possibly control, yet the simple truth is that control was never truly ours to begin with. All we can do is surrender, not giving up, mind you, but surrender. Surrender to God. Surrender your deep-seated pain. Surrender your rigid expectations. Surrender your predetermined timeline, and trust, profoundly, that what is genuinely intended for you will undoubtedly find you. It will arrive in ways you never imagined, through a door you never thought to knock on, at the very moment you least anticipate it. You are not too late. You are not too broken. And you are certainly not forgotten. You are actively being constructed, built in the silence, in the darkness, and in the confusion. God does not reveal the entire, completed blueprint because if He did, you would likely flee from it, not walk toward it. Instead, He provides only the next necessary step, and then the subsequent one moment at a time. This is not delay. This is profound love. And right now, He is whispering to your soul, just trust me. You are closer than you think. Part 2. The hidden reason why nothing worked. There were times you poured every ounce of your being into something. You worked tirelessly, day and night. You prayed with fervent devotion. You made the decision to do the right thing, even when it was incredibly difficult. The relationship crumbled, the job offer never materialized, the healing never occurred, and the people you cherished walked away. Deep down, you began to ask, if I gave my absolute best, if my belief was so strong, why did it still fail? You may have entertained the thought that God was punishing you, or ignoring you, or perhaps favoring others while deliberately skipping your name. But listen closely to this truth. It did not fail because you were unworthy. It failed because it was fundamentally not your destiny. It didn't work out because it was never meant to. What you were so intensely praying for was not aligned with the higher plan. You were beseeching for the wrong door to swing open, and when it remained stubbornly shut, you felt abandoned. But allow me to share something sacred. Sometimes unanswered prayers are the most potent form of protection. You did not fail. You were actively being guarded. That relationship you mourned the loss of? You cannot possibly know the damage it would have done to your inner peace. That job that rejected your application? You are unaware of the trap it would have become. That person who chose to leave you. You did not see what God saw, operating behind the curtain. You wept heartbrokenly over a shattered plan. But all the while, God was diligently constructing a superior one behind the scenes. Understand this. He is not merely the God of your present day. He is the God of your everlasting future. You only perceive the immediate moment. He visualizes the entire map. Therefore, when you cried, His silence was not intended to wound you. His silence was intended to guide you. One does not build a formidable house upon unstable ground. So, He removed what was weak. He delayed what was not yet ready. He broke what was ultimately going to break you. And that is the true reason why nothing worked. Because something exponentially better was being fashioned deep within your spirit. You desired external changes, but God sought internal transformation within your soul. You pleaded, God, change my situation. And God was whispering back, let me change your soul. The long waiting, the confusion, the perceived failure, all of it was preparation. God never allows pain to be wasted. He utilizes it. Your periods of silence forged your strength. Your experiences of rejection gave you precise direction. Your delays fostered depth of character. And your heartbreak gifted you heart. You were never being punished. You were always being prepared. Prepared for something vast, something profound, something permanent. Let me state this with absolute clarity. For the person watching this video, in profound silence right now, you did nothing wrong. You performed your best, and it failed because it was never meant to succeed. You are not being left behind. You are being consciously led forward not by your own limited plan, but by God's design. And His plan is infallible. You asked for a blessing, and He provided you with a vital lesson not out of cruelty, but because that lesson will sustain you far longer than any temporary blessing ever could. Therefore, do not look backward in regret. Stop asking, "What if it had worked?" It didn't, and that is your greatest gift. You were saved from something so that you could be saved for something. And one day, when you reflect on this time, you will genuinely say, "I am profoundly glad it didn't work out. Because if it had, I would not be the person I am today." You do not need to intellectually comprehend the process. You simply need to trust the hands orchestrating it. That is the essence of true faith. Not understanding, but total surrender. Surrender to the one who foresaw what you could not, who blocked what you did not know was hazardous, and who is now quietly shaping something monumental, something that won't just look good, but something that will finally feel like home, something that will offer you deep peace instead of constant pain, unwavering truth instead of confusion, and abiding love instead of loss. Part 3. The plan you can't see right now. Let us be entirely honest. You crave tangible answers. You demand clear signs. You want to know if all this suffering is truly leading somewhere, or if you are simply squandering years of your life waiting for a future that may never materialize. You reject synthetic hope and empty platitudes. You need to see something real, a compelling reason to believe that you are not just surviving for the sake of surviving. I want to convey a truth you have never been told before. The most dynamic and powerful plans of God are, almost without exception, completely invisible in their initial stages. Why? Because if He were to display the full, comprehensive blueprint, you would panic. You would doubt its feasibility. You would actively sabotage it. Or you would frantically attempt to dominate it with your own limiting timeline. That is precisely why God does not provide detailed explanations. He provides silent preparation. When a magnificent tree begins its journey, its roots must first grow deep downward, burrowing into the dark earth. For weeks, sometimes months, there is nothing visible above the surface. People walk by and observe. Nothing is happening here, but beneath the ground, something monumental is taking place. The roots are vigorously spreading, the foundational support is forming, and then, suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, that tree bursts through the soil and aspires to the sky. Your life mirrors this process exactly. The reason you don't see the manifest results right now is because God is still nourishing your roots, your strength, your character, your wisdom, and your capacity to handle the very thing you are praying for. Without deep roots, the moment success arrives, you will inevitably collapse under its weight. You are not waiting aimlessly. You are not stuck. You are being meticulously made, ready. However, I know the thoughts cycling in your mind. How much longer must I wait? What if I have already waited too long? What if nothing ever fundamentally changes? Listen closely. Faith is not constructed in comfort. It is forged in mystery. If you understood every variable, it would cease to be faith, it would simply be control. But God does not desire your control. He requires your absolute trust. He seeks not blind faith, but a mature faith, the kind that asserts, "Even when I cannot perceive any outward change, I remain certain that something profound is happening." Because sometimes, the plan is the process itself. The ultimate plan is not always centered on reaching a specific destination. Sometimes, it is entirely about the person you become while walking toward it. Look back for just a moment. Reflect on the things you once wept for, the people you convinced yourself you couldn't live without, the failures you thought would shatter you, the mistakes you deemed final. Yet, you survived, you healed, you learned, and now, you recognize those experiences were not punitive. They were preparatory. That is how the divine plan operates. God does not grant you what you desire when you want it. He grants you what you are capable of handling, precisely when you have become the person strong enough to carry it. You were not being ignored. You were being intensely trained. And if you currently feel that absolutely nothing is shifting in your life, That means you are standing squarely in the middle of the most crucial stage. The part where nothing makes logical sense. The part where people stop being able to relate to you. The part where you are compelled to walk on your own. The part where you are utterly exhausted but still firmly standing. That place is the holy ground, the location where genuine transformation takes root. It is neither the beginning nor the end. It is the sacred in between. That is where God forges his warriors. That is where he strips away your pride. That is where he reveals who is genuine and who is loyal. That is where he teaches you to walk by faith, not by sight. Some of you have asked, why is my life so incredibly quiet right now? Why does it feel like I'm frozen in place? Let me give you the answer that your soul already understands. The quiet seasons are never empty. They are holy. They are the periods when God performs his deepest, most intimate work within you. Publicly, nothing may appear different, but internally, you are being sharpened, molded, cleansed, and built for something far larger. Perhaps you will not grasp it all today. Perhaps the pain still weighs heavily. Perhaps you still feel forgotten. But here is the truth. You are not forgotten, you are hidden. Hidden from individuals who would have exploited you. Hidden from environments that would have crushed your spirit. Hidden from timing that would have destroyed your potential. You are not lagging behind. You are being intentionally positioned for something that demands far greater strength than you possessed before. That is why the plan remains invisible right now, because it is not yet complete. God does not reveal unfinished work. He perfects it in silence, and then unveils it in power. Therefore, do not be afraid of what you cannot see. Do not fear walking through the darkness, because the dark is precisely where the stars burn brightest. The unknown is where faith becomes palpable, and the silence is where God conducts his loudest work. You asked for a clear plan. God is gifting you something infinitely better. A stronger heart, a deeper soul, and a foundation that no coming storm can dismantle. And when it finally arrives, it won't merely be a blessing. It will be a confirmation, a solemn confirmation, that every tear shed, every delay endured, and every silent night was never, ever wasted. You will finally understand. The plan was not missing. It was meticulously maturing. And now, so are you. Part 4. When life breaks you, it's preparing you. You did not break because you were inherently weak. You fractured because you were being conditioned for something profoundly strong. There are inevitable moments in life when everything you assumed was solid falls completely apart. The people you loved the most abandon you. The plans you painstakingly worked toward collapse, and the things you believed would last forever vanish in an instant. And when this happens, it doesn't just hurt, it radically changes you. You retreat from trust. You stop dreaming. You stop believing that good fortune is possible for you. You start questioning, what is the point of trying again if everything just breaks? And quietly, in the dark, you begin erecting massive walls around your heart, not because you desire isolation, but because you are tired of bleeding. You have carried betrayal in your chest. You have walked with disappointment, as if it were a normal companion. You have mastered how to smile while secretly drowning. But let me tell you something the world never revealed. Life had to fracture you because a soft heart lacks the resilience required for a monumental calling. The pain was not administered to destroy you, but to meticulously shape you. You were being carved, not cut. A diamond achieves its status only through intense pressure. Gold only shines after passing through the fire. And souls only ascend after falling first. God was not trying to injure you. He was stripping away what was fake, what was weak, what could not accompany you to your next level. You had to lose certain people because their love lacked authenticity. You had to fall because your foundation was unstable. You had to endure the storm because the storm was the only force capable of cleansing you. It had to occur, not to crush you, but to violently wake you up. You were never meant to inhabit a small life. You were never created to remain in places where your innate light had to be hidden just to gain acceptance. You were never supposed to rely upon people who didn't even pray for you, and that is why it all broke. Because God could not permit you to construct a future on fraudulent ground. He couldn't allow you to spend your life moving in futile circles. He couldn't let you settle for anything less than the purpose for which He created you. So He allowed the pain, not to punish you, but to pull you definitively away from everything that was not part of your destiny. I know it felt cruel. It felt profoundly unfair. It felt like every single thing was disintegrating simultaneously. But in that precise moment when you felt utterly destitute, you were being fundamentally reborn, not in a theological sense, but in a soul-deep reality. The old version of you, the one who begged to be loved, the one who required external approval, the one who lived in fear of being alone, that version had to shatter so the real you could rise. The one who walks confidently in faith, the one who doesn't require validation, the one who trusts what God is doing even when nothing makes sense. Sometimes the pain is slow to dissipate. Sometimes the process feels interminable, but that is because something profound is happening within you. You are not just recovering, you are rebuilding. You are learning how to fiercely protect your peace, how to love yourself without begging others, how to choose growth over comfort, how to be still and still be monumentally strong. You see, when life fractures you, two paths emerge. You can become bitter, or you can become blessed. The pain can harden your heart, or it can radically open your spirit. The choice is ultimately yours. But if you are watching this right now, if you have persisted this far, then maybe, just maybe, your soul is ready to choose healing. You did not come this far just to remain broken. You did not survive the fire just to return to the person you were before. You came this far because something deep within you refused to quit. Something kept whispering, "This isn't the end. I don't know how, but I'm going to rise again." And here you are. You are not perfect. You are not fully healed, but you are still here. And that means you are not defeated. You are being reshaped. Shattered dreams do not signify the end of your purpose. They signal the definitive conclusion of your former direction and the commencement of a new path. You are being given something you never requested: strength, clarity of vision, patience, profound discernment, and above all, enduring faith. So, if life broke you, if people wounded you, if everything fell apart and you barely recognize who you are anymore, then know this: you are right where you need to be, in the middle of transformation. And when you ascend from this season, you won't just be stronger, you will be clearer, you will be calmer. You will be called not by the world's fleeting standards, but by the one who allowed the breaking so He could rebuild you with nothing counterfeit left inside. Do not be ashamed of your brokenness. It is your testimony. It is your rebirth. The most beautiful souls are not those who have avoided bleeding, but those who have bled profusely and yet still chose the courageous path of loving again. You are not broken beyond repair. You are being rebuilt for a purpose beyond understanding. And one day you will look back and sincerely thank the pain, not because it was easy, but because it led you to become the strongest version of yourself, the one you were always intended to be. Part 5. God was working in silence, always. There is something strangely sacred about silence. It does not feel like love. It does not sound like comfort. It feels like being utterly abandoned, like being ignored, like no one cares, not even God. And perhaps that is precisely where you have been lately. Praying and receiving no audible reply, hoping and seeing no evidence, desperately holding on while everything slips through your grasp. You whispered, "God, where are you? Why are you allowing this to happen to me? Why do I feel so profoundly alone?" But here is what your pain never told you. He was present, always, not in the clamor, not in the booming thunder, but in the stillness, in the quiet, in the invisible spaces where true faith is conceived. Because the greatest miracles do not make a sound. A seed breaks open in silence. A heart begins to heal in silence. And God often moves in silence. While you were breaking, He was diligently building. While you were experiencing loss, He was purposefully removing what could not accompany you. While you were crying, He was collecting every single tear. Not one was wasted. You thought He forgot you. But in reality, He was protecting you from fraudulent friends, from dangerous paths, from the very things you were begging for that would have shattered your soul. He did not say yes because He loved you too deeply to grant you what you were not ready for. And now you are stronger not because the pain stopped, but because you never quit. You are standing here, not by accident, but by divine timing, still breathing, still hoping, still standing, even after everything tried to bury you. You have come to this moment for one singular reason: to finally comprehend that you were never alone, that even in the deepest valley, even when no one called, even when you had nothing left to give, God never left your side, not once, not for a single second. He allowed you to fall, but not to the ground. He allowed you to break, but only so He could rebuild you free of the lies. He allowed you to feel utterly lost, so you would stop frantically searching all around and finally look up. Because the truth is, you were depending on things that lacked the power to save you. And now you are being summoned to something greater. Not comfort, not safety, not approval, but purpose. So what do you do now? Now that you have seen the truth, now that you know the silence was not the end but the beginning, you undertake the very act the world fears the most. You surrender. This is not giving up or fleeing, but a profound surrender. Your need to control, your need to intellectually comprehend everything, your fear of the future, your anger about the past. You take your broken pieces and you place them securely in God's hands, and you declare, "I do not know what comes next, but I trust you completely." And then you begin again, quietly, slowly, but this time with an abiding sense of peace. You cease asking when, you stop demanding why, and you stop compulsively comparing your timeline to the apparent progress of others. You stop chasing what was never intended for you, and you start walking not with guaranteed answers, but with resolute faith. Faith that what is meant for you will absolutely not miss you. Faith that closed doors were not rejection, but divine direction. Faith that the silence was not abandonment, but protection. And every day, you commit to the only thing you were truly created for. You put God first, not success, not fleeting relationships, not outside opinions, but the one who granted you this very breath and trusted you to carry this pain for a significant reason. Because if you are still standing here, it means your story is far from over. It means the worst day of your life was not the final chapter. To illustrate what true faith and enduring trust look like, especially amid life's worst storms, I will share a brief story. There was once a valiant naval officer who, shortly after marrying, took his wife along on his first long ocean voyage. For her, it was the first time experiencing life at sea. Initially, everything was serene. Blue skies, placid waves, gentle winds. But suddenly, a violent tempest erupted over the ocean. The sky rapidly darkened to a deep black, and the waves swelled, easily towering higher than the ship itself. Thunder roared relentlessly, and lightning split the darkness in every direction. The vessel began to violently pitch and tremble. Panic instantly engulfed everyone on board. Passengers shrieked, some clasped hands and prayed fervently. Yet, a single person remained absolutely serene: the sailor. He stood motionless, silent, and steadfast, as if the turbulent sea were merely an acquaintance. His wife, utterly terrified, clutched his arm and cried, "My dearest husband, how can you remain so calm? Don't you see the grave danger? Are you not afraid we might be lost?" The sailor looked at her gently. Then, Without uttering a sound, he drew his sword and carefully placed the cold, sharp blade right against her neck. Her body instantly froze, yet her eyes still betrayed no fear. He asked softly, "Are you afraid now?" She managed a smile through her tears and replied, "No, because I trust you completely. I know this sword is lethal, but I also know your heart you would never harm me." The sailor nodded slowly and whispered, "And that is precisely how I feel about this storm. It may appear deadly, but I trust the one who controls it entirely." That is the true meaning of faith in God. Not freedom from the storm, but possessing an undeniable peace within the storm, because you trust the one holding your very life in his hands. It simply doesn't matter how profoundly dark the sky becomes, how deafeningly loud the thunder bellows, or how high the massive waves surge. If you trust God with the same profound confidence that wife held for her husband, you will not be paralyzed by fear. This is not because the situation itself has suddenly become safe, but because his overwhelming love is infinitely stronger than any storm. Now, listen closely. What should your next steps be? Here are 4 fundamental truths, not presented as mere helpful tips, but as powerful commands issued from love itself to guide you forward. 1. Stop fighting the past. Release it entirely. It is finished. You are not required to repair what has already crumbled. Your purpose now is to rise up and move forward with fresh vision and a fully healed heart. 2. Focus intensely on your sacred work, not the final outcome. Abandon the need to worry about victory or defeat. Concentrate solely on your current duty. Remain faithful to the task at hand, resisting the obsession with the final result. Remember that quiet obedience often precipitates miracles, and steady discipline naturally invites peace. 3. Surrender all claim over your future. It was never truly yours to manage or control. The future will always remain inherently uncertain, so why expend your spiritual energy worrying about it? Stay anchored in the present moment. Remain faithful, and allow God to open the specific doors intended for you in His perfect timing. 4. Never forget this profound truth. Sometimes God will deliberately demolish your carefully laid plans because He foresees that those plans were about to destroy you. Do not mourn the broken structures. Instead, celebrate the divine rescue operation you have just experienced. You have endured enough. You have carried enough. Now is the time to ascend not through brute force or bitter anger, but through unshakable faith. Faith that you haven't been delayed. Faith that nothing you experienced was meaningless or wasted. Faith that every single prayer was heard, and faith that something breathtakingly beautiful is already en route, something uniquely written just for you. You may not have been shown the complete blueprint, but by now, you have seen enough evidence to wholeheartedly believe that God was working in profound silence, not behind your back, but meticulously behind the scenes. His intention was never to delay your blessing, but to prepare you physically and spiritually to receive and hold it securely. And when it arrives, you will be ready not because you suddenly understood every step of the journey, but because you valiantly walked through the fire and steadfastly refused to surrender. So, continue your journey with an enduring peace nestled in your chest, with an illuminating light guiding your soul, and with the quiet, profound confidence that God is still actively working His plan for you. If you have remained with this message until the very end, then it was specifically intended for you not merely to be heard, but to remind you of a powerful reality. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not too late. God is still deeply invested in writing your story, and the next chapter promises to be more breathtaking than you could ever have conceived. He will grant you a peace that is inexplicable and untouchable. He will deliver blessings you never even thought to request. And one day soon, He will give you something you never dared to imagine but always truly deserved. Therefore, do not lose hope. Keep pressing forward, keep trusting, and no matter how deafeningly silent the universe may feel, remember this: He is closer now than ever before. My prayer for you is that you find healing where no one sees the wound. I pray that you are instinctively guided when you feel utterly lost. I pray that you receive everything your soul has patiently awaited. May God richly bless you with a peace that defies all logic and a future that finally feels like coming home. If this message resonated with you, if it provided even a single answer, triggered one cleansing tear, or offered one breath of peace, then know that I am here. Whatever questions you carry, ask me in the comments. I diligently read them. I reply to them, and I will be here to support you for as long as you need. And before you move on, please hold on to this one truth. God is not finished with you yet. What is approaching is something so magnificent that you cannot possibly envision it at this moment.